The Connecticut Sun are off to a roaring start. Rachel Banham is here to talk all about it. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. More than 200,000 of you showing up in May alone. The way we show up for you 6 days a week. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, not just me, it is the incredible team across the board at nexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces on women's basketball every month. The great Noah Dalzell covering the Connecticut Sun. We have a beat reporter for every single team, the way it should be. Subscribe if you believe that, the way I do. $9 a month, $72 a year, thenexthoops.com, where we do the work. And a lot of work through the years has been done reporting about Rachel Banham, player, coach, raconteur. Rachel, it's great to be with you. Talk to me, first of all, about what it has meant to be back in Connecticut so far, on the court, off the court. Obviously, where you were drafted, literally where you were drafted. That was where the draft was in 2016. I remember that night. But just to be back here playing and experiencing life here in the Nutmeg State.
Yeah, it's been really fun. It's really special to come back to the team that I all started with, and it's a different coaching staff than when I first came here, but there's still some players that I played with, Breezy, Jones, and AT. And then Morgan Tuck is the assistant general manager. And I came in with her. So it's really cool to kind of come back to somewhere that's familiar. And that was like a lot easier for me to make that decision to come back here. The fans are amazing. It's just basketball culture here is really fun. And it's just been fun for us. Obviously, starting out 9-0 is always, winning always covers up everything and it makes it fun. And it's just been an incredible start. And off the court, I'm loving it. It's really chill here. And I love the seafood, the clam chowder. I always say chowder. Has been amazing. So I'm enjoying it so far.
You can be honest here. This is a safe space to talk about it. Is New England clam chowder, in your mind, legitimately better than Manhattan? New England's the white, the creamy one. Manhattan is more the tomato. New England has it all over Manhattan.
Yeah, 1000%. Every time I order it, I'm like, wait, it's the creamy one, right? They're like, yeah, the New England one. I was like, okay, good. No offense to the other one, but like, if it's the clear brothy one, no, thank you. That defeats the purpose. Everyone wants the creaminess.
It's a very weird thing to me that Manhattan clam chowder is even a thing. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like, the seafood is paramount to this experience. Segment one, we're going to talk a lot about Connecticut. We may get into some basketball too, as well. In addition, segment two, talking more about getting a little nerdier on the stat side of things, about you playing off the ball and the way in which that works best for your game. Segment three, we're going to talk about the Rachel Banham career arc and coaching and sort of where you want to go longer term as well. But just let's start with 9-0. And this is my favorite thing so far about Connecticut is you guys are currently 12th in the league in three-point shooting percentage, despite being 9-0. Obviously, best defensive efficiency in the league. You're a top 4 offense. Somebody who's on the floor and you see it, they have to respect what you are bringing to the table. I've seen the way defenses play you. Is that almost more than half the battle of making sure you're getting that space, whether or not the shots go down? We know they will eventually. You are an elite three-point shooter, but how much does that play a part in how well you guys have been able to play offensively so far?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was something we talked about when I came in here, was just having the ability to have the space on the floor to be so much better, not just having DB or Ty be the spacers and adding another guard that can shoot. And like you said, like I haven't really found my rhythm yet 3-point wise. And I mean, I know that's going to come, I'm not worried about it, but being able to still draw those defenders, like they still don't help off me no matter what. Like I could go 0 for 10 from 3 and they're still glued to me on the weak side or not coming off on the strong side. So that opens up a lot more driving lanes for our drivers. And that makes me feel better. I'm like, okay, I'm able to draw attention and make it harder on these defenses to have to figure out who to guard, regardless of how I'm shooting.
It's so interesting too. I mean, look, of course they can't sag off of you. You are a career 37% three-point shooter. You're north of 40% routinely. And so I go back to that draft of 2016 because it's so interesting to me. I can't really get my mind around the idea that Morden Tuck is not playing in the league anymore. But that draft that night, so much talent. Stewie goes number 1. Listen, she's shooting 20% from 3 right now. You're not sagging off of her. We understand.
Never. Mm-hmm.
You can't. And then Moriah Jefferson goes number 2. And I mean, to have both of you on the same roster is so interesting to me because so I went back and did a little granular looking. I said, all right, since 2016, this is courtesy of StatHead, since 2016, best three-point percentage, minimum 180 games in the league. And you are currently 14th at 36.7%, right there with Kelsey Mitchell, Rebecca Allen, some of the best shooters, Kalia Copper. You're ahead of Kayla McBride and Jewel Lloyd. Again, people have to pay attention. Moriah Jefferson, 39.7%. So, Darius Taylor clearly had in his mind, I've talked to him about this, we're going to get shooting in order to change the balance, the gravity on the floor. And so in real time, as you're out there, AT is obviously this force of nature going downhill. Do you see her having more room to operate so far this year?
For sure. I mean, AT's going to find a way to that rim regardless, but I think it's making her life a little bit more easy rather than going 1-on-2, 1-on-3. Now these defenses are having to guard, stay out of space more because she's such an elite passer too. So you're having to make that decision. Like, do we help off shooters and give up 3 points, or do we go in and potentially give AT and one at the rim? Because that's probably what's going to happen. So I feel like it's making her life a little bit more easy, and she's having these lanes to work with, and it's just the spacing has been a lot better.
So this is the number one. This is the granular part for me that reinforces it. 34.3% of her attempts were at the rim last year. Really high number.
Yeah.
54% so far this year for AT at the rim. A direct result, again, of that spacing that you're talking about. So it's fascinating to me. I know you've played with her before, but are you seeing any changes, any developments in her game since the time away? It's different day to day. And so, what are you seeing this year that maybe is a surprise, something new?
I think, like, from when I first played with her, I think she's became an even better passer. And she's just so comfortable, like, having the ball in her hands, like, bringing the ball up, like, playing the point guard position. I don't think she did that as much when I was first here, and now it's, like, such a comfortable role for her. I also think that, granted, she does shoot so much at the rim, which she should, she still gets those little bunnies outside of the restricted area. She gets those, like, little paint shots that I feel like I don't remember her really shooting, or at least shooting with confidence. And now she can, shoot with both hands, as we all know. And she's getting more of those. And if you're hitting her in the paint, like, she's looking for that more, not always just having to go to the rim and that's only her shot that she can take.
It really is remarkable. And again, it goes back to, she was routinely in the mid-20s in assist percentage when you were first in Connecticut, which is impressive for anyone. It's particularly impressive for, a quote-unquote point forward, however you want to define her. She's at 44% so far this year. That is point guard, that is elite point guard territory. That is Courtney Vandersloot territory in terms of her career mark. That is tops in the WNBA so far this year. The last big to lead the league in assist percentage was Candace Parker back in 2012 when, and we can talk about it another time, the LA Sparks didn't build a proper roster before they made her play point guard. This is my time here. And so it's a very different thing to see. 9-0 is obviously great. I assume 40-0 is the goal. No, yeah, this is a tough league. Obviously, like losses will come at some point. Going out and getting that number one seed, is that a primary focus for you guys, given how hard this league is, especially winning on the road in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we're like sitting around talking about. It's so early in the season, and the way this league works, like you really have to lock in on every single game, no matter who you're playing. It could be the last team in the league to a Vegas in New York, and it's not something we're talking about. Of course, every team wants that. Every team knows they want to finish as high as they possibly can. Home court advantage is so big in the playoffs, and having those buys is so huge for teams that play their players 30 plus minutes. They need that extra rest, or you need that extra prep time, or whatever it may be. So it's definitely something we want. It's not something we're sitting around talking about. We know what our goals are. It doesn't even need to be spoken about. Everyone knows that Connecticut wants to win a championship and that it is time to get to that point. It's been so close so many years, and it's just our ultimate goal. So, 40-0 would be great. We know that's not going to happen. I mean, anything could happen, obviously, but we're going to lose games, and that's all right. We need to work on handling adversity in those moments and growing as a team.
It's really interesting to me how much better you guys are this year already. I think we've gotten to some of the reasons why, but Rachel Banham, a critical part of that. Really excited to hear talking about the Connecticut Sun and all things women's basketball. Back in segment 2, talking, we're going to get into some of the synergy data because there's a number I want to throw at you that I find particularly interesting right after this break. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. And let me tell you, the Game Time app offers something even beyond just the chance to get tickets. It offers peace of mind to a father with a basketball obsessive daughter who wants very much to make his daughter happy. And so when Juliet wants to watch games in person, she doesn't just want to know what game we're going to and what players she's going to see. She wants to know what the viewpoint is. And so that, for me, makes Game Time extra special. I can show her right on the app. Look, here's our 360-degree view of the arena, making sure that when we go to watch the WNBA on the times that I'm not there reporting, that she's able to get to see exactly what she wants to do. Game Time app provides lowest price guarantee, or else Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. And last minute ticket deals save you up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're back here with Rachel Banham of the Connecticut Sun. And Rachel, you're not a stranger to the idea of big crowds, of the experience of playing in front of a national TV audience. You've done all of this in a lot of ways. To me, I know we talked about this earlier this year, a lot of the perspective for the WNBA moment in 2024 with Caitlin, with all of that, these are things that, and maybe newcomers don't realize it, these are things you went through during your time at University of Minnesota, getting shout outs on Twitter from Kobe Bryant and how exciting that was. Do you feel as if that perspective kind of helped prepare you and even like you to be able to talk to your teammates about what's been happening here in the W in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy to think about. It's just the game has grown so much, and it's fun to kind of talk to some of the younger players who are just coming through and like talking to them about some of the things that I experienced in college or coming into the league. And they're like, whoa, like I had no idea. Like I forget how young they are now and how much older I am. And just
how do you think I feel?
Yeah, it's just crazy, like educating them on stuff that we went through, or even what the league used to be. Like we used to share rooms on the road. We always flow commercial. There's so many different things like that you talk about, and they're like, oh my gosh, like so it's really interesting to like have both sides of it and how much social media has played such a big role in growing growing the game and growing the views and whatnot. So it's changed so much since, I was even playing earlier on.
Are you suggesting that you have teammates who don't know the phrase maroon mamba? Is that true?
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
We
God.
got,
All right, we got to
yeah.
bring that back. We got to bring that back. But, well, like, to your point, like, there's a negative side to it, obviously, that comes along with it. And I wonder, and look, I feel like everyone in the country, in the world, is coming to terms with like how social media plays a role, how much is too much, how do you tune it out? Do you find that difficult? Does your team find it difficult? What's your strategy for being able to do that? Because there the amount of people who are able to come in and just be in people's space and be negative, is sort of the downside that goes along with this as well.
Yeah. It's a lot. Obviously, like you said, social media is so important, but also there's so many downsides to it as well. Personally, for me, like I don't have any notifications on any of my social media, so I check it when I check it. I don't have it all popping up. That has helped a lot.
Yeah.
And also, like if I ever see anything negative towards me, like you're gonna get blocked. Like I don't care. I don't need to see it. I don't care. Like it is what it is. I don't need to have this conversation with you. But I'm not dealing with a lot of the stuff that a lot of these other players are, and it's so unfortunate. And yeah, I mean, people get really comfortable saying whatever they want on social media, and I'm always curious if they would actually say that to your face. And I very much doubt that. But there's a lot of like couch coaches, as I feel like is the term that a lot of people are using, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's unfortunate. But you also gotta see the positive sides of it. But I think sometimes you just gotta like stay away from social media and or, who cares what people have to say? Honestly, they don't know. But it's easier said than done for sure. It's so much easier said than done.
That's the part of it, right? Where even in conversations with younger reporters who work with me to say, you know, ultimately the amount of people you need to care about, that circle where you need to rely on has to be so vanishingly small is, a critical part of it. But yeah, also like you said, we wouldn't invite those people into our house. Why do we invite them into our phone? We're sitting on our own couch to be able to do it. It just, yeah, to block and move on makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about someone who is not able to block you, and that is anybody who closes out on you shooting threes. And so I want to throw the synergy. I know, right? How's that for a segue? I want to throw the synergy number your way, which I love from last year. You scored an average of 1.11 points per possession on unguarded threes last year. Very good, very strong number. You go to guarded threes, you were at 1.20. You actually got better and more efficient on it. So I'm just going to ask you, like, do you like it better when, for timing purposes or whatever else, there's a hand coming at you?
100%. I always say that. And I think a lot of basketball players are actually like that. I hate wide open threes. Like, of course, like you're excited, like, because it rarely happens either. You're like, yes. But also, something about it is so much harder than being guarded. I would way rather be guarded. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mental thing or I'm more locked in. Like, okay, I gotta get this up. I gotta really lock in on my shot. I don't know, but I that stat makes sense to me because I would way rather be guarded.
You're consistently above a point per possession on guarded threes. It's an absurd number. That is not something that is common in this league whatsoever. But it does, like you said, make a certain amount of sense, right? When someone's coming at you, you have to catch and shoot. There's a certain rhythm you're in. We see it all the time. Shooters are, I'm setting my feet, I'm overthinking it. And then that,
Yeah.
kind of gets into your head. I also have to think, and you can speak to this better than I can, how much you guarded in college played a part in that as well. You got so used to double team, triple teams. I mean, I know that was the case in high school too. Did it just become just a habit for you?
Yeah, I like you said, like I practiced having the most hardest contest. Like we had a player that was redshirting that year, and she guarded me every day in practice,
Mhm.
and she made it so hard. So then at that point, I got so used to it. And even now, when we work with our development coach Keith, he's like, "Do you even see me?" And so be like contesting, and I'm like, "No, dog, I'm not worried about you." Like, but it helps. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's something I'm so used to and I'm more comfortable with is somebody being right there.
I talked to you about this after we saw you opening night. It also seems like you are quicker off the ball defensively, and defensive metrics are really problematic just because they're so context based. But it just seems to me like you are better as a defender, quicker as a defender. Is this something that you worked on this past offseason? And do you feel that way so far?
Yeah, I mean, every off season I go to my trainer and we kind of just talk about goals going into the next year. And of course, like there's only so much more that I'm going to gain. You know, you're not going to get crazy fast and way quicker, especially, I mean, I'm 30 now. But like we go into it and I'm like, I want to be able to come from point A to point B and change directions better. When the ball changes ways, I want to be able to hit and go faster, and obviously laterally moving better and working on my hips, because that's also something as you get older, it's harder and it gets tighter, and I've had knee stuff. So that's something we really focused on and we did a lot of. So it's something that I go into the games really focusing on it too, because you're guarding some of the fastest people in the world and the most athletic girls in the world. So it's something I lock in on way more than offense. Offense comes a lot more like smooth for me. Defensively, I'm like, all right, I got to really move my feet. So I think it's something I just focus on a lot more.
Well, it shows, so it's very interesting to see it. I'm delighted to continue to see you growing as a player. We'll be back in segment 3 talking about long in the future, 'cause I'm not gonna be able to emotionally process it on the day you retire, talking about coaching, back with Rachel Banham, right after this. First, here to talk to you about Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is here. It's interesting, right? The WNBA is going on right now. You have the opportunity to turn $10 into $1,000 in a little over a single game watching your favorite sports. You can make a prize pitch lineup in as little as 60 seconds. That's all you need to pick between 2 and 6 players, not projections. It's you versus the projections. You're not playing against any sort of sharks or anything. More or less, you figure it out and you win. You know, whether it's somebody like Rachel, whether it's somebody like an Angel Reese, and Asia Wilson, you name it, you can win up to 100 times your money by watching them ball out. And there's even, I looked into this, and Rachel, maybe you can speak to this. There's apparently a men's professional basketball league now that's going on as well. Is that true? I think they call it the NBA.
You're ridiculous.
We'll have to look and see. I think they're playing. I don't know if if you're from Minnesota, I don't think you pretend. The season's over now, right? As far as I know on the NBA side. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it no longer exists. Who's to say? But on the off chance that you discover that, there's the NBA too. More important, there is the WNBA. So go ahead to Prize Pitch right now and try right away. Use the code Locked On NBA once you download the app, and you can get a first deposit match for up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use code Locked On NBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, less. It's that easy. Oh yeah, that'll merit further study. So back with Rachel Banham, talking in segment 3. Rachel, I know you've had the opportunity to serve as an assistant coach at University of Minnesota. I know the way you think about the game, and if you'll forgive the point of personal privilege to our listeners, I had the honor of you writing the foreword for my book Rare Gems, talking about 4 generations of Minnesota women's basketball pioneers. You are one of them. You are somebody who has materially advanced the game, and it has been an honor to see you do that and amplify your story as we go. So, as you think about the impact that you continue to make, I'm sure that plays a part. I know, again, you could join the media if you want to be part of, our dying industry and do that as well. So, like, what, when you think about what's ahead, are the best and biggest ways you're most excited to give back?
Yeah, I mean, future wise, I'm still kind of figuring it all out, but I definitely want to be part of the sport in some way, shape, or form. Coaching has been such a blessing. I just love working with young women and even and young boys too. Like I've done camps and I've had girls and boys at those camps, and that has been so fun. And I'm trying to figure out if that's going to be kind of my route again. If I want to go back to doing camps and training kids, and I've trained high school teams in Minnesota, and that kind of stuff. Like anything where I could just be involved with working with. I love kids. Working with kids would be awesome. Or just young women, just helping to grow the game anyway, and just being a role model for them is really important for me.
It is something you have done throughout your career. It's a tremendous thing to see. The last thing, just before we let you go, we talked about seafood at the top. I want to return to seafood at the end of this. Obviously, New England Clam Chowder sounds like it's a staple for what you're getting. Is there a preference, mayo or no mayo, on a lobster roll for you? Where do you land on that?
Oh my gosh, I've actually never put mayo on a lobster roll. I didn't know that was a thing.
Good.
But I'm not against that idea because I love mayo, but I've always just had the butter. I thought it was just butter and lobster.
It's what should be. As I understand, it's called Connecticut style. Maine style is with the mayo. So, but listen, what we'll have to do is have you back on the show, twist my arm, and we'll have to talk more lobster rolls and maybe some additional basketball as well. But Rachel, I'm always grateful for your time. And to our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We'll be back to you tomorrow as well. An upgrade on the host side because you'll go from me to Jackie Powell, but otherwise, same show, Locked On Women's Basketball. Until then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Thursday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.